The wheel craftsman follows his rules to govern the entire world. Mozi. Gazetteer of Heaven saw a square of wood, carved with exquisite craftsmanship, a ruler, an inch of land, is a masterpiece of construction. The friction between invention and creation creates sparks of wisdom, and the craftsmanship of craftsmen has been passed down for thousands of years, achieving human civilization and development. In ancient times, there was the ancestor of the Hundred Craftsmen, Liu Ban. Today, there is the king of the 100 certificates, Jiang Chang'an. 100 qualification certificates for engineering disciplines such as civil engineering and construction, water conservancy construction, machinery, geology and mining. Others travel through the space system, while Jiang Chang'an is reborn with a certificate. The ancient Song dynasty, which was technologically backward and had low productivity, was its home ground. Transforming agricultural tools to improve the farming efficiency of farmers, make small inventions to improve the living standards of a family. If you want to get rich, you still need to pave the way for the imperial examination. 100 certificates are enough to carry out infrastructure construction in this backward ancient era, making the top leader in the construction industry. The position of Minister of Works was easily captured, until the Ministry of Works was rolled into the top 6. Only in this way can we repay our loving grandfather, enlightened parents, and wise teachers Li Shushan, the son of the true princess and the crazy expert. Qing Mei, it seems that you have forgotten about me. The life-saving kindness of the bamboo horse should be promised with one's own life. The First Lady's rank is worthy of your honor. Jiang Chang'an. Feasible, the road ahead is long and arduous. We share the same boat in the wind and rain, share the same difficulties, and measure the radius of this family, this court, and this world according to rules. The white head is harmonious with the elderly, and the house is full of children and grandchildren. Keywords of the novel. Rebirth of a farmer girl. I rely on carpentry to become the Minister of Works. No pop-ups, rebirth of a farmer girl. I rely on carpentry to become the Minister of Works. Complete download of TXT. Rebirth of a farmer girl. I rely on carpentry to become the Minister of Works. Latest chapters for reading. Chapter 1. Double Rebirth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Double Rebirth. In the scorching summer, the azure sky shines like a freshly washed sapphire, the sun, like a fire, watered a bright red dawn, like a soaring phoenix dancing. Everything was just beginning. On the bustling and antique Long Street, a robust water buffalo plopped and pulled a large and old cart, with a crowded group of people sitting on the cart. Sir, the street is so lively. A group of children dressed in gray-green robes subsidized by the government looked at the street view in surprise and greed. Brilliant sunshine shone across the green tiles and red walls, the protruding eaves, and the fluttering shop signs. Sparkling carriages and horses, flowing pedestrians, fragrant cars and beautiful clothing accompanied by peaceful and comfortable smiling faces. What a bustling county town, it's completely different from their rural areas. Not bad, what do you think? The old man, dressed in a gray robe, leisurely stroked his long and grayish beard. As soon as Zhang Zhuzhu's body stiffened, he shouldn't have spoken. He was tested by the teacher and turned his head to push Shen Fugue beside him. Sir, what do you think? Shen Fugue shrank his neck. Shouldn't this question be asked to a top student? So he pushed Li Shushan, who was lying down due to discomfort. As a result, I was too excited and found the wrong partner, and ended up being dragged onto the famous little fool Jiang Chang'an, who was also lying down in their school. Ha ha ha, this action made the elementary school students burst into laughter. If the little fool could understand that she was still called a fool. But at this moment, the clear sky suddenly clicked and a silver dragon like lightning flashed, and the bright sky suddenly roared with thunder. Ah! The elementary school students hugged each other in a moment of panic and trembling. They were wrong, they shouldn't have laughed at little fools. Don't chop them, Thunder God. Moo, moo. Even more alarmed than them were the old water buffalo pulling the cart in front, who suddenly started running wildly and shook the people on the cart until they were all meat and vegetables. And when everyone was not paying attention, 2 tiny lightning bolts, like threads, suddenly plunged into the bodies of 2 children lying on the ox cart. Immediately, those 2 small eyes suddenly opened simultaneously, with one eye filled with a cold and murderous aura, and the other eye filled with confusion. Jiang Chang'an was still confused, but the violent jolt almost moved his heart and lungs, making him feel nauseous. At the next moment, her body bounced high with just one jump, and in an instant, she flew out weightless. My grass! When I wake up, God wants to fall and kill her. At this speed and height, if you fall out, you're either dead or disabled. Jiang Chang'an's strong mind was rapidly running, thinking about how to land with the least amount of damage and perform a forward somersault. Backspace at that moment, a pair of powerful little hands suddenly pulled her into their arms, tightly protecting her. Their 2 small bodies rolled down to the ground with a thud. Is it safe? Jiang Chang'an was about to celebrate, but a painful groan came from beneath him. With a straight eye, the person beneath her, a fair little face, was wrinkled into a bun. However, Jiang Chang'an didn't have time to think much, because the momentum was too strong, and her body inertia was reversed, forcing her to be firmly pressed back to the ground. Her head hit the hard floor with a bang, and her eyes suddenly lit up with Venus. Immediately after, with a click sound, it hurts so much. It's okay to smash her head, what else is there to stab her in the back? Jiang Chang'an is going to cry. Is she going to be bumped into a fool? Still want to bleed to death? But what's even more terrifying is her voice. Unexpectedly becoming crisp and tender, like a little girl of 7 or 8 years old. Jiang Chang'an was dumbfounded, seemingly forgetting the pain on his body. He stared blankly at the equally tender and unfamiliar little face hanging just above her, as well as the short hands he had stretched out. What is the situation? She has returned to old age and childhood. Jiang Chang'an remembers that she had just obtained her 100th qualification certificate in the field of engineering, and due to several days of tireless work on design drafts, her physical functions were overloaded, causing her to faint directly in the lobby of the construction building. But in fact, she didn't just faint, but died suddenly. Jiang Chang'an's highly intelligent gene mind crashed directly. What should she do about things that cannot be calculated by scientific methods? She died, and then, with a headache, a blurry memory passed into her mind. Is it exactly the same as the scene she once dreamed? Are you okay, Jiang Linger? Li Shushan ignored his own pain and crawled over to check Jiang Chang'an's condition, with a hint of anxiety on his face. He had tried his best to recover, but at this moment, his body was too small and he had not yet practiced martial arts. His strength was not sufficient, and in the end, Jiang Chang'an was injured. In his past life, he was also this cow. He was startled by the sound of firecrackers and ran around. This little fool was thrown out by the cart and broke his head. He died within a few days after returning. The old man of the Jiang family lost his granddaughter in pain, unable to bear the blow, and also passed away. In his past life, the Li family was fooled and reported the wrong kindness. Later, he found out that old Master Jiang was his life-saving benefactor. He had to make a comeback, and Li Shushan decided to turn things around. The first step, of course, was to save the beloved granddaughter of the benefactor, so at the moment they both fell, he reached out to Jiang Chang'an without hesitation. I have something to do. She turned into a little fool, how could she be okay? But I dare not say, afraid of scaring you to death. Rebirth is something that an adult like Jiang Chang'an cannot accept, let alone a child. If she says it, a fool will be mistaken for a madman. No wonder in modern times, she often dreams when she sleeps at night, dreaming about the life of an ancient little girl, which is very real, as if she is in person. But actually, is that her own soul at all? With one soul and two bodies, she is modern during the day and turns into an ancient silly girl at night. Due to differences in space, she was 29 years old in modern times, but in ancient times, she was only 7 years old. This damn golden head, even if it has a strong memory, the imagination is still so rich. Jiang Chang'an is about to cry without tears. What should he do now? Li Shushan helped Jiang Chang'an up and touched the back of her head for the first time, only touching a swollen lump. He breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. No bleeding, should we be okay? In her past life, she only died after bleeding all over the place. As for what the little fool said, Li Shushan didn't pay much attention to it. She's only 7 years old and still a stiff little fool. What do you know? It was now Jiang Linger, whose eyes were a bit clear. It was not his illusion, but Li Shushan's eyes flickered as he thought of his own situation, as well as the lightning and thunder. In the end, he didn't say anything. He was just brought back to the age of 7 by that lightning bolt, and others could also be thunderbolt from the blue, thunder on the flat ground, frightened many animals, and the noisy street suddenly became chaotic. The old water buffalo was still running around in panic. Big cow. Stop. Stop. The cart puller tried his best but couldn't pull the rope tied to the cow's head to a stop. The whole cart was still shaking violently, causing passers-by to flee one after another. Hold on to the cart. Be sure to hold on to the cart. The old man also panicked, repeating loudly over and over again, his originally smooth long beard already tangled up in knots. He held on to the cart tightly with one hand and protected the child close to him with the other. Once he fell off the cart, it would be a case of missing arms and legs. Wow. Sir. I'm afraid. Sir, Li Shushan and Jiang Chang'an fell down. Sir, the ox cart is about to hit a person. Mr. Lao. I'm also afraid. Alas, as expected, he is a scholar who is useless. Why doesn't he have the skills to stop the cow? Otherwise, it would be better to have some carpentry and force the cart to stop. I have opened a new article, and I hope the babies can support me a lot. Please collect, check in, follow up, comment, and get tickets. Bow. Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Assisting Parking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Assisting Parking. Of course, not only this old water buffalo was frightened, but also other horses and carriages, as well as a huge team. This is Huwei Escort Agency, the largest and most prestigious old escort agency in Changxian. At this moment, the 16 flags that had once fluttered in the wind had fallen to the ground, with large letters of Darts and Tiger Power written in black on a yellow background. In panic, they were stepped on by someone. For tall horses were controlled by 4 sturdy middle-aged men in their crotch, restlessly circling in place. The 10 large flatbed carts that returned with a full load were also thrown unsteadily by the horses. The accompanying drivers and porters, some comforting the horses and others guarding the carriages, made a chaotic mess and directly blocked the traffic on the street. At this moment, a crazy cow was dragging a broken cart and charging straight towards them. The bodyguards were all shocked to see this and said, "Stop that crazy cow. The goods on the car cannot be hit. Otherwise, their Weiyuan escort agency will be finished." So, the bodyguards who had not yet secured the carriage turned around and rushed forward like risking their lives to stop the mad cow, only to be pushed away one by the crazy old cow. It's over. As the mad cow was about to collide with the cargo, at a critical moment, only a click was heard. The ox cart miraculously came to a stop. No matter how strong and crazy the old ox was, he could no longer drag the ox cart, making it stop in front of the carriage. What's going on? Click. Click, click, click. After a series of crisp noises, not only the ox cart but also the carriage came to a steady stop. The fleeing passers-by stopped one after another, and then they saw 2 children standing there, both holding a handful of small stones in their hands. Did these 2 small children avoid a major disaster? It's simply unbelievable. Get it done. Jiang Chang'an threw away the small stone in his hand and patted his hand, but his movements were too forceful, causing him to pull on the wound behind his back. Oh. It hurts so much. So, as a person, one should not be complacent. Now, the extreme happiness brings sorrow. You're a girl's family, can't you be more refined? Such an indecent moan can a girl's family make in public. Li Shushan's mouth twitched at the corner. This girl was possessed by some old monster, and surprisingly, she could make such a big wheel unable to rotate with just a small stone. Once the wheels do not turn, the weight of the cart becomes solid. It is not easy for the cow to pull, and coupled with its fatigue and constant control by the driver, the cart comes to a stop. What is taken from this is a clever move. If it weren't for someone who knows the mechanism well, how could they know where the stone needs to be stuck in order to play its due role? When Jiang Chang'an first spoke, Li Shushan still didn't believe it. It wasn't until she, like a blind cat, hit a dead mouse and threw a stone, successfully blocking the ox cart that Li Shushan followed and stopped the cart. So now he knows that there is an old monster living in Jiang Chang'an's body, a big monster like himself. I'm in pain. It's almost so painful, who cares about something as elusive as elegance? So can she cry a little? Because she's a child now, and regardless of modern or ancient times, her body is extremely afraid of pain. Jiang Chang'an is holding her small mouth, looking so pitiful. Li Shushan, it seems that this should be a little monster, like a real child who can cry at any time. Can an old woman sacrifice her face to achieve this level? The answer is negative. This girl is simply helpless. Shushan, Chang'an, are you all okay? This is really great, and I almost didn't feel lucky enough to burst into tears. Shaking his body, which was about to fall apart, he was supported by 2 elementary school students and walked towards Li Shushan and Jiang Chang'an. Sir, we're fine. Are you okay? Li Shushan asked with concern, and the 2 of them saluted the old man together. Okay, as long as it's okay. Shushan, when did you learn the mechanism technique? How could you make all the cars stop? At the last moment, Master Song was still lamenting that he had no carpentry skills and was full of talent, so he couldn't stop the cart. He was worried that he would pass away today. As a result, his students surprisingly brought him a huge surprise. 2 little puddings fell off the carriage and were fine, miraculously stopping all the cars. Oh my God! Li Shushan's family is not short of money, and he is spoiled. He is extremely mischievous in his daily life, teasing his master, bullying his classmates, neglecting his studies, and never reading well. He is a little troublemaker who dislikes dogs. Did he secretly put in effort on the mechanism technique? It's really hidden and not exposed. Sir, it's not me, it's Chang'an who came up with a solution. How could it be? The students collectively questioned loudly, is a fool smart enough to be called a fool? Was it struck crazy by lightning? Master Song was also shocked, but Li Shushan didn't look like he was lying. Chang'an came up with an idea. Jiang Chang'an, with a bewildered expression, was he still the little fool of the Jiang family, right? My grandfather is a carpenter. What's hard to explain? Her grandfather is amazing. According to his elders, he is the 101st generation descendant of Luban. Jiang Chang'an believes in it and deeply admires his own old man, who is a little old man who perseveres in the pursuit of excellence. But this kind of Jiang Chang'an may seem dull to outsiders, but he is also obedient. Song Fuzi's mouth twitched. Don't mention your grandfather, he's an old carpenter. That's right, but the tables and chairs he repaired for the school were all as uneven as a limp. How could this make the gentleman believe you? Master Song and his companions did not believe it, but others believed it. The little girl has great skills. She easily resolved a crisis, which impressed Wang. This gentleman is fortunate to have nurtured 2 outstanding talents around him. The person is tall and powerful, with a strong physique and a strong sense of power. This is the chief escort of the Hui Escort Agency, surnamed Wang. The idea was proposed by the little girl, but the leader of the escort, Wang, could see clearly that the person who made the move was the little boy next to her, and this boy should have some skills, otherwise he wouldn't have such good accuracy. If the accuracy is not good, the stones cannot be thrown into the designated area, and the car will not stop. So Mr. Wang said that Mr. Lau has 2 good students. He, brother, I flatter you. The child is still young, so I shouldn't be so proud of him. I feel proud. He has a lot of face, and Song Fuzi once again straightened his long beard, raising his head at an angle that seemed just right. Otherwise that's the case. The 2 elementary school students have indeed helped me a lot with the Hui Escort Agency. This is 2 taels of silver. Let the child take it to see the wound. No one in the martial arts world is observant and observant. Escort Wang was particularly careful and discovered that both Jiang Chang'an and Li Shushan were injured. The clothes are also torn, and there are bloodstains oozing next to them. This group of people should come from a rural private school, so their money is definitely not abundant. Sure enough, Jiang Chang'an's eyes lit up and he finally stopped staring. Great person. Thank you, uncle. Fearing that Master Song would refuse, Jiang Chang'an took the money handed over by Escort Wang, but of course, she only took one of them. You should know that some scholars are very noble, so it's common to not eat food that comes with shame, right? But she needs to see the wound, and Lao Zhang's family definitely doesn't have this money. Jiang Chang'an took it, and of course Li Shushan also took it. This is labor income, why not take it? Take it even if you don't lack money. Song Fuzi's mouth twitched again, and he didn't say no. Why are you in a hurry? Thank you, hero. The child really needs money. Wang Dao too arched his hand and wanted to be polite, but unexpectedly, there was an argument on his side. It's over. The furniture is broken. You need to compensate. A sharp voice disrupted the calm. I have opened a new article, and I hope the babies can support me a lot. Please collect, check in, follow up, comment, and get tickets. Bow. Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. I can fix it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 4. Certificate System. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Certificate System. As soon as the task came up, Jiang Chang'an's attitude became exceptionally serious, completely devoid of any distractions and without any hint of hesitation. Song Fuzi nodded with satisfaction, realizing that being foolish has its benefits. She can only focus on one thing, and other things cannot interfere with her. Such a dedicated person can often get things done well. The furniture components have 6 small areas of paint rubbing, and there are also 4 tenons with varying degrees of breakage. No wonder the installer said there is no way. There is no formula for mixing paint according to, and the tenon is only the size of a thumb, and the cut is not neat. In ancient times, there were no iron nails or glue, so it could not be repaired completely. Without a tenon, components cannot be connected, and the structure is not well fixed, making it impossible to assemble a piece of furniture. But it can change its form. As long as the knife is in hand, there is no wood that cannot be conquered. The tenons used by Qinjiangzi are all triangular chuck tenons, which can be cut into fan-shaped shoulder tenons. Just add a groove in the middle and move the tenon inward. A carving knife, a small chisel. Jiang Chang'an extended his small hand to the installer. It's good to use a knife to completely damage furniture components. He can also completely shirk responsibility for this matter. The installer smiled maliciously and said, "Please," pretending to be respectful. The onlookers are boiling. Are you really manipulating the knife? How could a yellow-haired girl possibly have master-level craftsmanship, and why wouldn't this master advise her own students? Not even Jiang Chang'an's classmates have a good eye on her. This fool has been struck by lightning and turned into a madman. The master doesn't care. Mr. Song was very comfortable. It would be even better if his leg bones didn't hurt that much. He didn't expect the child to really solve the problem. He just wanted Jiang Chang'an to know that everything should be done within his means. Only Li Shushan stared seriously at Jiang Chang'an's every move, his eyes deep. The installer handed Jiang Chang'an a toolbox, but the tools in the box were very rudimentary, without even the necessary pencils and rulers. Is this to test her eyesight? This question is very unfriendly. She had a solution, but she didn't have the tools. Just when Jiang Chang'an was about to take another action. Ding, the certificate system download is complete. Do you want to activate the advanced woodworking certificate? A mechanical voice suddenly appeared in his mind, causing Jiang Chang'an to be shocked. Open, open. What is it? Then, a screen resembling an air computer appeared in front of her out of thin air. Jiang Chang'an looked around in panic and saw that the people around him were completely normal, so only he could see it. Do you want to turn on the measuring device? The mechanical voice in my mind asked again. Isn't it precisely the measuring instrument that she lacks? Yes, Jiang Chang'an eagerly agreed. As soon as she finished speaking, the page that originally displayed 100 engineering certificates jumped to the advanced woodworking certificate. As soon as the carpentry certificate is opened, it displays various old-fashioned carpentry tools, as well as wood information, some furniture style and structure diagrams, and so on. The screen quickly turned and the measuring device jumped out, still the type with scale and structure. Is this technology too advanced? Jiang Chang'an couldn't suppress his excitement. My gaze fixed on the wood about to start, and I saw the structural scale immediately fly up, wrapping it around the wood. In the next moment, a schematic diagram of the structure with dimensions of length, width, and height appeared on the wood. Without pigment or pen, the structure diagram can be formed by staring, and there is also information about the material name, growth environment, and characteristics of this piece of wood. My grass! Jiang Chang'an couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Which immortal invented these divine tools? Please accept her knee. Woo-woo, if she had such a divine artifact in her previous life, she wouldn't have died suddenly. That's it, the little fool really went crazy. He was so excited that he definitely wouldn't know how to fix it. Just say woodworking is a technical job, not something that anyone can learn. Chang'an, if it doesn't work, then step back, don't really scare the child into thinking silly, like those who grin and drool. Previously, Jiang Chang'an was mostly stunned and didn't like to talk, but occasionally she was no different from a normal person, and people called her soulless. Before Song Fuzi could finish his words, Jiang Chang'an took action and without any measurement, he directly operated the knife. At first glance, it seemed like an outsider. The installer was relieved that he no longer had to take responsibility, and he also anticipated the disastrous outcome of Jiang Chang'an being cleaned up by the county magistrate. But is the chisel he hasn't polished for a long time so sharp? He usually struggles to use it, but in the hands of the little girl, it's effortless to dig a hard piece of wood like cutting tofu. Jiang Chang'an, she had already restrained herself and pretended to be slow, but in fact, she was using a chisel from the certificate, and without any effort, she dug a groove in the real wood. Cough. Hands should not tremble. The benefits of reincarnation through time travel are normal, no matter how adverse the weather may be. The most important thing is to hold on to the vest, which is safe. Is Chang'an strong? Song Fuzi hesitated. It's very big, she often flips us over and hits us. It's embarrassing, but I have to admit it. Li Shushan also couldn't help but sigh. He used to be immature, and a group of people often went to bully little fools, but ended up being beaten, especially him. There was also a trend of becoming more and more brave as he struggled. That makes sense, Jiang Chang'an can cut hardwood like soft tofu. Jiang Chang'an quickly dug out the 4 grooves and then repaired the positions of the tenons, making the shape more exquisite and beautiful than before. The installer became more and more surprised as she looked at it. It looked surprisingly close to size. How did she do it? A bad feeling suddenly arose in my heart. Quickly, the 4 new forms of tenons were repaired, and Jiang Chang'an inserted them directly into the groove, stable. Wow! It's assembled. Oh my goodness! Did the little girl really do it? Ha ha ha! Steady, it's done. Uncle should thank your little niece well. It's actually quite simple. Just look at a little girl who can easily fix it, and the installer used to boast that he couldn't do it like no one in the world could. Humph, beat your face, it's like a tornado-style slap. You assembled it without painting, it's against the rules. And what about these things that knocked off the paint? A wealthy young lady's dowry, painted off like a dog's skin, would she accept it? They bought it at a high price, and the installer introduced a new problem. So everyone eagerly turned to Jiang Chang'an with hopeful eyes. I'll give it a try. Jiang Chang'an rubbed his chin like a little adult. She remembered that there was paint in the installer's tool, but the color was different, so she adjusted it. The installer saw Jiang Chang'an take his paint and his heart skipped a beat. It was a failed product made by him who stole the teacher's work, wouldn't the little girl just use it? The most important aspect of paint blending is the composition of various colors, and no matter which color is a little more or less, it cannot be blended into a true color. But there is a dropper in the certificate, which is not difficult for Jiang Chang'an. Everyone saw the little girl playing around casually, quickly adjusting the paint, but drawing on the paper, tisk. It's completely different. The installer chuckled contemptuously and casually adjusted the paint, so he was already at the master level. Jiang Chang'an was not influenced by others, looked around, and then unexpectedly ran to a flower pot in front of a shop and grabbed a handful of soil. Is this a family game? The installer exploded. This little girl is playing with everyone. Escort Wang and Master Song also frowned, but there was no intention of stopping them. The little girl should not be so unreliable. Jiang Chang'an poured some yellow soil into the cup, and the originally light yellow color turned into earth yellow, but there was still a certain gap between it and the paint on the wood. She ignored it and directly applied the paint to the furniture components, brushing them several times. The paint is still different. The installer almost went crazy. At first, he was very excited, hoping to cheat from the little girl, but in the end, this girl, I want fire. Jiang Chang'an extended his hand to the head of the king's escort. Dart Wang's heart skipped a beat. Is this something he can handle? Just burn it down, okay. But still beckoning to the subordinates and giving orders. Humph, do you still want to grill directly over open fire? Do you want to boil it in water again? This is playing at home cooking. The installer is very sarcastic. The drying of paint should be done in a hot and dry drying room, and baking with an open flame on wood will catch black smoke. Jiang Chang'an used fire to dry the paint over a long distance, and gradually the newly added color became more and more similar to the original paint, until it was completely the same in the end. Can it still be like this? The installer was stunned. Okay. Escort Wang and the escorts cheered loudly. But Jiang Chang'an suddenly brought the fire closer to grill. Hey! The installer was too late to stop you. The little girl obviously deliberately burned a piece of land. Hey! The finishing touch of the dragon painting is amazing. Song Fuzi suddenly praised it. Everyone took a serious look. That's not it. With that black streak, the original paint pattern came to life instantly. Live. Oh my goodness. The clouds are alive, and the flowers and plants are also alive, exclaimed the onlookers in surprise. I have opened a new article, and I hope the babies can support me a lot. Please collect, check in, follow up, comment, and get tickets. Bow. Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Where to learn from. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Where to learn from what? I have only heard that animals are alive, but now even clouds and flowers are alive. It's completely unheard of. Upon hearing the astonishment of the bodyguards, the onlookers were itching and couldn't bear it for a moment. Really? So magical. Go and take a look. People immediately flocked to witness this unique wooden carving. The scene became even more tumultuous, and the bodyguards were startled, but their reaction was relatively quick and they quickly surrounded and protected the goods. Immediately, when a piercing banging gong sounded, successfully stopping the onlookers. Everyone, stop. Don't get close to our goods, otherwise don't blame us for being impolite. As the problem with the Huawei escort agency approaches a satisfactory resolution, we cannot allow malicious individuals to take advantage of this opportunity to harm furniture. As soon as the second escort received the gaze of the big escort, he immediately made arrangements and was well trained. This is the ability and experience of an old escort agency that has been in operation for decades. Jiang Chang'an was protected in the middle, looking stunned and worried about the possibility of a stampede. With just her small arms and legs, there was a crisp sound when she stepped on the iron, and she finished playing. Unconsciously, her small hands anxiously grabbed Li Shushan's sleeve beside her. Did she show off too much? What should I do if I show off my skills as soon as I arrive on the ground and cover myself with a black burlap bag? Is there still time to pretend to be foolish now? You should know that if a wood is taller than a forest, the wind will surely destroy it, and if a gun hits a bird in the head. Who knows if someone will come and kidnap her, or if the black forces will secretly tie her up and use her as a slave or a tool for making money. After all, in the relatively peaceful modern times, she has been kidnapped many times. If it wasn't for her bodyguard Awesome, she would have been caught as an experimental object. Who would let her have a golden brain? But what if she doesn't block the installer's mouth in public and gets teased again? What should I do if it is not repaired or if the buyer is held accountable by the county magistrate and causes trouble? Oh my, she had no choice but to do so. It's really not just technical itching, it's not pride, it's really true. Jiang Chang'an used a silly expression to conceal his small pride. Don't be afraid. Suddenly, a gentle soothing sound sounded in Jiang Chang'an's ear, and his little hand was held by someone. With warmth, Jiang Chang'an's heart miraculously calmed down. She was comforted by a little kid. Oh. It's really unbelievable. Don't be afraid, little niece. Uncle will protect you well. Let's take a look at these parts again. Will they be repaired? The tall and burly big dart head spoke in the softest voice, afraid of scaring the little tall man in front of him. How could he forget to live? He has never been so gentle with his wife in his life, but who could have made this little ancestor a little expert who could save them from the Huawei escort agency? Ah. Oh, we need to apply another layer of varnish. Otherwise, the tobacco area will fade. Jiang Chang'an applied another layer of paint with his hands and then dried the paint with a torch. It's done, Jiang Chang'an said, but this time she didn't dare to pat her little hand proudly because it would pull the wound on her back and hurt. The installer approached with fiery eyes and carefully examined each repaired component. It was indeed more stable and exquisite than what his master had done, especially in terms of coloring. He seemed to have understood some of the tricks. Not bad, it's indeed fixed, the installer said, assembling the components and then waving them to the surrounding crowd. Indeed lifelike, everyone take a look. The installer's mouth curved with a different smile. Oh my! It's really strange and realistic. Clouds and flowers have shadows, as if moving. It's really amazing. That shadow was burned with fire. I didn't expect it to have such an effect, it's amazing. The onlookers all stood up on tiptoes and looked around, finally able to feast their eyes. then began to discuss and highly appreciate. Yeah, little girl, I don't know where you learned this amazing craftsmanship from. I've never heard of a master in Wuzhou Prefecture who is more powerful than my master. You probably stole the blueprint, right? The installer chuckled and said, anyway, he doesn't believe the little girl's grandfather can have such skills. Maybe this girl picked up a few maps. Can he take possession of that blueprint? After learning it, you can share the market of Wuzhou Prefecture equally with Master Qin Jiangzi and become famous all over the world. After all, even a little yellow-haired girl can learn it. Can he be even worse as a skilled carpenter? The installer thought beautifully as if he had seen countless gold ingots approaching him. Jiang Chang'an seemed to be unaware of the installer's calculations, but her expression was quite impressive. As someone was giving her a pillow due to drowsiness, please allow her to be proud. I didn't steal it. It was a wooden toy that the old beggar gave me, because I gave him a big mantu, and he taught me to make the color of bodhisattva. It's valuable, alas. I slipped my tongue. Jiang Chang'an quickly covered his mouth and couldn't say anything, because it was all lies. Gold is very valuable, but the gold made from mud can only be said to be useful, which is clearly a trick played by the old beggar to deceive children. Wooden toy. No drawings. The installer does not believe it. Yes, it's just such a corner. I assemble and disassemble it every day, and it's so fun. Jiang Chang'an installed those repaired furniture components, and she played with them a lot. Is it still difficult to make such modifications? With the addition of a half-skilled carpenter in the Jiang family, Jiang Chang'an can easily repair these wooden corners by mistake, solving the urgent need of the Hui escort agency. The installer was stunned and couldn't accept the result of such a playful play. Impossible. You. All right. No matter what the method is, the furniture has already been repaired, and the installation master needs to stop at a moderate level. Otherwise, is the only responsibility for the inadequate protection only with our Hui escort agency. We all thank this young master. Are you right? The oppression from an experienced escort who has been wandering the world for many years is not without prestige. The installer hesitated for a moment and reluctantly closed his mouth, otherwise the old man would also tear him apart. Thank you very much, young master. Whether you know carpentry or not, it is a fact that you have helped us at Hui escort agency. This is the reward you deserve. After the Dartu finished speaking, he took out a certain 10 taels of silver ingots for Jiang Chang'an, causing the Zhou dynasty to gasp for breath. Oh my goodness, this little girl is also so lucky. She just played around and earned 2 years of income from an ordinary family. Jiang Chang'an stared blankly at the big dart leader, as if he had been scared out of his wits. However, big brother, it was actually quite inappropriate because she brought the thunder, and she was just doing the aftermath. Mister, please accept it for her. 10 taels of silver is indeed a huge sum of money for ordinary people. The big dart leader thoughtfully gave the money to Master Song. Hee, thank you so much, brave warrior. Song Fuzi smiled and took the silver over. He had to pay for both the silver and the goods, setting aside his relationship with the Hui escort agency to avoid being caught off guard by the county magistrate and causing trouble. Song Fuzi knew very well that if it weren't for the desperate situation of Hui escort agency, they wouldn't have let Jiang Chang'an, a child, touch those furniture. That's completely like a dead horse acting as a living horse doctor. From this, it can be seen that the relationship between the two sides is not harmonious, so it's better for these ordinary people not to take advantage of either side of the relationship. The circle of ordinary people only requires an ordinary and simple network of relationships. Song Fuzi stroked his long and messy beard and looked lovingly at Jiang Chang'an. The little fool knows how to hide clumsiness, it's not bad. The big dart leader nodded knowingly and turned to his subordinates, shouting, brothers, move quickly, be careful, we'll be able to tie up the dart soon. Yes. The big dart head. The neat and powerful chorus is comparable to a majestic army, no wonder it is frightening. Not long after, the escort agency's car was sorted out and set off again in a grand manner. The heavy cargo pressed the wheels against the bluestone pavement, making a creaking sound, as peaceful as at the beginning. As soon as the escort agency's large car left, the road gradually became clear, but the miraculous deeds of today are still widely circulated. Let's go too, waiting for your test to just begin. Song Fuzi's words were like cold water, awakening the elementary school students who couldn't come back to their senses after a while. Ah! The elementary school students immediately howled in sorrow. Why do life have so many tests? They don't have the intelligence of Li Shushan or the good luck of Jiang Chang'an, but what should they do? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Refusal to seek medical treatment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Refusal to seek medical treatment. Yes, today is the day for the assessment of all child students in Changxian County. There are 3 years of school experience and registered child students. Sir, are we really going to see the officials? Before even going, Zhang Zhuzhu trembled nervously and really wanted to go home. What should we do? I heard that the officials are really fierce. They all like to hit people on the board. Not everyone is like Master Song who doesn't hit the palms of students. Go ahead, don't be afraid. You can play normally, and the teacher will always stand with you. Song Fuzi has only been running a private school in Shanshan village for 5 years, and this is also his first time leading the team out for assessment. The Great Chong dynasty attached great importance to talent selection. Every 2 years, the capital would send imperial officials to inspect the learning situation of local students. The time was irregular, and the officials were also not fixed. This kind of examination can greatly reduce cheating during exams and also uncover talents who have been maliciously buried. For example, a student's daily proficiency is very poor, but they rank among the top in exams, and is there a problem with a student's good grades when suddenly they don't make it on the exam list? Has anyone cheated? These will become the key issues and objects of concern for the imperial censorate. So, today's assessment is very important for the mountain private school that is showing up for the first time. But Master Song was still leisurely, because he did not teach in the traditional way at all. Even though these students had studied with him for 3 to 5 years, they were still in the stage of literacy, entertainment, and establishing basic values. But in other traditional private schools, they have already started learning the 4 books, and after 1 or 2 years of studying the 5 classics, they can basically go to take the scholar entrance examination. So in traditional assessments, the probability of students in mountain private schools passing is not high. Since the results can already be anticipated, there is no need to worry. But there is a word called accumulation and thin hair. By learning in this knowledgeable way, children's future achievements are limitless. The assessment time is in the afternoon, but it takes an hour from the mountain village to the county town, so Song Fuzi hired the largest ox cart in the village early in the morning and pulled more than 10 students from the school to set off early. However, there were more anxious students who took a carriage to the assessment site before their group. And the people who ride the ox cart are so miserable that they still have to be with the master, always together. Master, don't you know that this will create even greater pressure on us? Zhang Zhuzhu suddenly wilted and returned all the books he had learned to his teacher. Even if the teacher was present, he couldn't cheat. Jiang Chang'an, are you afraid or not? She is the youngest student in a private school on the mountain, and a girl. She should be even more afraid, right? Jiang Chang'an mechanically turned his head and looked at Zhang Zhuzhu beside him. Oh, the hunting boy at home is usually quite righteous, at least he has not bullied her. I'm afraid. Jiang Chang'an was stunned, not noticing any signs of fear from her. In the Dechong dynasty, because the founding emperor was a woman, the empress advocated gender equality. Women could not only go to school and do business, but also open women's households and serve in court, competing fairly with men. This tradition has been passed down for over 100 years, but there are still very few women who truly step into the court and achieve success. because few families devote themselves to cultivating a woman. Women are losers, and their ultimate goal is to marry someone else's wife, which is a traditional belief in the world. So, who would be so foolish? Investing resources in a daughter who will eventually marry out, helping other families cultivate talent, and ultimately competing with men to reduce opportunities for oneself. Therefore, any woman who wants to be strong and ambitious is often discriminated against and suppressed by the majority of men, and there are very few truly enlightened men. Women's status is relatively humble and low, but the social atmosphere is still relatively open. At least women don't need to wrap their feet, and the difference between men and women is not very serious. Women can also go out and do things frequently, if you are not afraid of being bullied by men. Moreover, most wealthy families are willing to let their own girls go to school for the sake of appearance or for better marriage. Just like the young lady and young master of the county magistrate's family who were childhood sweethearts, the combination of wealth and young talent has always been a beautiful talk, and I wonder how many others envy them. Not to mention anything else, the school is definitely the best place for blind dates. Over the years, judging a person's character and future, everything good or bad can be judged. So, the slightly wealthy families sent the girls to school one after another, implying that they were naturally looking for a successful husband. Of course, Jiang Chang'an didn't go to school to find a partner, and her family didn't have any money either. She was forced into school by her father, and the kind of person who only pays half and neglects the other half. Let's try and see if we can cure her foolish illness. Secondly, when you go to the school, you don't need a dedicated person to take care of a little fool. With a knowledgeable gentleman leading you, you can still absorb some of the gentleman's elegance, right? Lightweight and affordable. The fact proves that this approach is effective. Look at the fools from other families, they either talk nonsense or go crazy and hit people. Jiang Chang'an is different. She's just stunned. As long as you don't provoke her, she can stay quiet all day. But it's just such a little fool who made 11 taels of silver in anger today. It simply shocked everyone's chin. Now, the classmate in the car is quite suspicious. Is this girl really stupid? Jiang Chang'an, how many texts can you memorize? Shen Fugui's family runs a grocery store in the village, not to mention being wealthy, but he can still eat meat from time to time. This chubby little guy is very enviable. Many. Countless. Although Jiang Chang'an is a science and engineering student, she enjoys reading and has a golden mind, so any book she has read will be memorable and can be memorized by reading it multiple times. But now is not the time to discuss these things. Sir, I hurt. There is a burning pain behind me. Can you go and treat it first? In this hot summer, the wound is really prone to inflammation and pus discharge. Maybe it could end up killing people. This is an ancient place with poor medical conditions. Upon hearing Jiang Chang'an scream for pain, Li Shushan immediately became nervous and said, "Sir, there is a medical clinic right ahead. Let's go over and take a look now." Although it is highly possible that the body had a new core, if the body itself was too weak, even a strong soul would not be useful. She had died in her past life. Li Shushan's injury is more serious than Jiang Chang'an's, but at this moment, all his thoughts are focused on Jiang Chang'an. Song Fuzi nodded in agreement. Anyway, it's still early and his old bones need to see a doctor more. Go ahead, sir, that's exactly what you mean. He was such an open-minded gentleman. The old man Nyo drove his cart unsteadily to the front of the clinic. The students got off the cart, all of whom were real rural children. At that time, they didn't fall off the cart like Jiang Chang'an and Li Shushan did, so they had nothing to do. But everyone also wants to follow in and take a look. The county town is attractive to rural people who rarely go to the city, especially Shen Dashun. His father is a rural doctor, and he has been studying medicine with his father for many years. Deep down, there is a passion and expectation for medical skills, and my favorite place is the medical clinic, which has many types of medicinal herbs and medicinal fragrances. However, as soon as the group entered the lobby, 2 young staff members hurriedly ran over and said, Hey, stop. What are you all doing? The medical staff rudely extended their arms and stopped a group of people who wanted to enter the store. The leader, Master Song, politely arched his hand and said kindly, Young man, I and a few students have fallen and injured. We want to go to the clinic to find a doctor. How could it be? The 2 staff members at the clinic exchanged a glance and smiled meaningfully. Oh. You fell. Don't look. Who knows what bad thing you've done? Our clinic doesn't treat people like this, otherwise it's just helping the tyrant to wreak havoc. Surprisingly, the guy used a very vivid idiom. That's right, you said you were students and teachers, that's right. You said you were injured in a fall, that's right. Who knows if that was because someone was beating you secretly? Humph, nowadays, there are many scammers. Just now, a group of beggars came and said they were both teachers and students, but they were just stinky beggars who stole someone else's clothes, the other guy also said disdainfully. That's right, hurry up and leave, otherwise we'll have to report to the government. The attitude of the medical staff was very bad, without even basic respect, because they all saw at a glance that the group was ordinary people. The gray robe worn by Song Fuzi was very simple, and although the students wore the new uniforms issued by the government, the shoes on each of their feet were not new. Jiang Chang'an's shoes are covered in patches and worn-out coarse cloth, while Zhang Zhuzhu's shoes have 2 holes directly, making it easy for people to see through their identities. It's almost like these people are not beggars. Song Fuzi stroked his long beard and glanced at the idle shopkeeper and the sitting doctor in the lobby, who were clearly watching the show. He was almost fearless and understood what was going on. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Malicious Competition. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Malicious Competition. It's just malicious competition. The Song dynasty had such bad habits everywhere, but the atmosphere of coming to Changxian was particularly bad, openly and fearlessly committing crimes, which was enough to show the bad behavior of local authorities who only covered the sky with one hand. Children, let's go then. Without much entanglement, Master Song simply turned around. Did it make the people in the clinic feel shocked and give up? Don't fight for it. Give it a scolding. They have all prepared various lines and battles. After all, there have been several previous experiences of arguments. Sir. Shen Dashun was puzzled. He was 13 years old and the oldest child in a private school on the mountain. He had become much more sensible. He just doesn't understand why a hospital would make things difficult for patients who come to seek medical treatment. Shouldn't doctors be responsible for saving lives and helping the injured? At this point, Master Song had already walked out of the door of the medical clinic, so he boldly said, "Bei, this is someone behind the scenes." It was organized, otherwise a medical clinic would not have stopped others' path in order to give their own children more opportunities to climb up. This effect is too small and completely unnecessary. Why? Why would someone stop others from seeking medical treatment? Isn't this money-seeking and killing? And as a doctor, why can one refuse to save oneself in the face of death? Jiang Chang'an also wants to know why. Is this a medical clinic doing this? Or are all the medical clinics in Lichang County like this? Is it like this today? Or is it like this every day? Are there private schools at odds with all the medical schools? It's so difficult for her to die. It's not anyone else who dares to feel sorry for her, just keep stirring it up. Good question, sir. Let me talk to you about today's assessment. The competition for the imperial examination as a student has always been fierce and cruel since ancient times. It is quite difficult to become a successful person, but this carelessness can lead to irreparable harm and a loss of life. Often, people make obstacles for others before exams and try to kill a group of people off the field in order to reduce their competitors. There are also various traps during exams and backdoors for grading after exams. Not treating injured students is likely to hinder their performance during exams due to illness, which is beneficial for their competitors. From what the guy just said, there should be a group of injured people who have come to seek medical treatment, but they have also been kicked out. This injury is definitely not just a coincidence, it should be someone who designed a trap and deliberately framed someone else, with the aim of ensuring that the opponent does not appear on the assessment field. I don't know what traps are waiting for us next, but all we can do is unite and be careful. Therefore, without the friendship of classmates, it is difficult for one person to break into the officialdom alone from the exam room. Children, are you afraid? It's not that Song Fuzi deliberately scared people, he just wanted the children to have a clear understanding and a sense of traps, and the more setbacks they encountered, the braver they became, and the stronger they became. Because people who are often protected too well find it difficult to grow and are prone to distortion and blackening when faced with sudden setbacks. Sir's words make elementary school students confused. What's that? It's unfair to be beaten even if you read a book, isn't it? Reality is so cruel. Jiang Chang'an looked up at the sky speechlessly and murmured, it's unnecessary. Li Shushan chuckled, and the little boy had already shown some charm and graceful demeanor. That's not it. Even a little fool wouldn't let go, it's too cowardly. Not only fools, but there aren't really many competitive private schools on the mountain. Jiang Chang'an really wants to beat this person to death, mocking a little fool as a hero. You can still endure it. But now she can only keep a low profile, not to mention the dangers lurking around. Being too smart at the moment is not a good thing, so she timidly leaned towards Master Song's side, looking lonely and aggrieved, daring to be angry but not daring to speak. Upon seeing this, Master Song immediately felt heartbroken. He slapped Li Shushan on the shoulder and said, just when I said my classmates should unite and help each other, you acted recklessly. Who made the little girl cry? Li Shushan held his mouth tightly and suddenly stopped talking. He used to not expect a little fool, but now he can't say it well. Although he doesn't need to borrow from a little fool, he needs to prevent her from causing trouble. Jiang Chang'an is not as good as before. Will she harm Mr. Jiang? You have to watch carefully. Li Shushan doesn't want to save an enemy for his life-saving benefactor and go back. Alas, the road ahead is long and arduous. Sir, are you still going to other medical institutions? The person asking was not Jiang Chang'an, but Shen Das-hun. He was hit a bit hard, and it was a medical institution that refused to save him in the face of death. Or are all medical institutions under pressure from evil forces? Is there no pure way to save lives and heal the wounded in this world? So, after studying medicine, I can't even save the person I want to save. What is the significance of studying medicine? Song Fuzi did not answer directly, but looked at Jiang Chang'an and said, Chang'an, are you in pain too much to bear? If you must go to the hospital, you must give up the assessment. Because it is really possible that no medical institution dares to accept them, and of course, after the assessment, there may be a conscientious doctor who will show great mercy. That is to say, this is a dilemma of choosing between two, and Jiang Chang'an certainly understands the powerful relationship between them. She quietly looked at Li Shushan and asked, what about you? Her big eyes were wet and full of care. Jiang Chang'an did not forget that when he fell off the ox cart and landed on the ground, the first person lying on the ground with heavy friction was Li Shushan. He should have been injured even more. For a moment, Li Shushan felt that he was not human. The girl was so kind, but he used malice to speculate about others, which was too dark in his mind. I can tolerate it, sir. Assessment is more important. Not only is he important, but other classmates are equally important. This time, it is destined that Jiang Chang'an's thoughts cannot be let go. If the assessment is not carried out as planned today, how much resentment from classmates will fall on Jiang Chang'an, and how much revenge will be on her in the future, it is unknown. As far as he knows, the two siblings of the Shen family who were not present were not fuel-efficient lamps and were not easy to get along with. So in order to avoid future troubles, it is necessary to ask Jiang Chang'an to endure the pain now. "Sir, I can tolerate it too," Jiang Chang'an said with tears in his eyes, his words unconvincing. Who the hell caused her trouble? If she didn't go to the exam room and beat these people to death, she would be sorry for this pent-up pain. She is Jiang Chang'an, so there are no exams that she couldn't do well. You should know that engineering also has a Chinese language course, and if not, she also has a doctoral degree certificate system in literature. And the memories in Jiang Chang'an's mind, taught by Master Song, even the knowledge she only mentioned, she can still remember 7 or 8 times, with only half a soul to remember. I'll ask if you agree. Jiang Chang'an smiled wickedly in his heart, which coincided with Li Shushan's thoughts. He did not learn well in his past life, but he was also a person who had attended the Imperial Academy. Now, he is sufficient. Wash your head and wait, little brats. Song Fuzi didn't know that the two children were secretly planning things in their hearts, which was quite comforting. It was really difficult. They had this kind of mentality at a young age, it's not bad. So he nodded and said, well, then let's not go and make things difficult for other medical institutions. After all, we'll have a good relationship, and we'll also look good after the assessment is over. Deshan, you don't have to worry. There are thousands of faces in the world, and we can't force them. You just need to be good at yourself. It takes strength to do whatever you want, and changing others and the environment requires more power. You're all young, let's gradually become stronger. Song Fuzi patted Shindashuan's shoulder and looked into the distance with a leisurely gaze, not knowing what he remembered. Yes, thank you very much for your guidance, sir. Shindashuan's heart finally became firm again. He had to work hard and have the ability to do what he wanted to do. The ideas of the teachers and students are quite beautiful, but fate does not meet people's wishes, and people do not meet people's hearts. In order for trees to become successful, they must go through countless trials and tribulations. The trouble quickly caught their attention. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Obstruction and Robbery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 9. Compensation for Confinement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Compensation for Confinement. Seeing the constable in uniform carrying a sword approaching, Song Fuzi quickly jumped out of the car, his footsteps unsteady, and he fell directly to the ground. Then he awkwardly got up again and said, "Poor master, hurry up, save the children. They are almost killed by these bandits. They are students, the future pillars of the country." Master Song howled loudly, his voice filled with panic and anger. "Oh! Help! The bandits are robbing and killing." The students heard the voice of the master and quickly fell to the ground with a sharp sense of heart, running for their lives and retreating back one after another. Jiang Chang'an hit someone and hit him, so she slowed down a step. When she was about to retreat, she was kicked by an embarrassed and angry man, and she flew straight to the side like a wireless kite. "Jiang Linger," Li Shu said deeply and hurriedly ran over. "Chang'an." Song Fuzi was stunned and his body was on the verge of collapse. "Jiang Chang'an." The classmates froze in fear. The big man who kicked someone was covered in confusion. His foot felt empty, but did it touch the side? The person flew out and said, "I didn't hit anyone." "Pop it." The response to the big man was the crisp sound of Jiang Chang'an's body falling to the ground, and then the little man on the ground remained motionless. "Jiang Linger. Have you really played with Xiaoming?" Li Shushan knelt down beside the villain to explore. From the angle he had just stood, he couldn't see clearly whether Jiang Chang'an had really been hit, so his whole heart was shrouded in mystery. Will it ultimately be impossible to escape death? The gears of fate still revolve along the trajectory of their past lives. Li Shushan panicked deeply. If something happens to Jiang Chang'an, how can he explain it to Mr. Jiang? Can he change his tragic ending? However, Master Song knew that Jiang Chang'an's posture was clearly his own, so he must be fine. Isn't this child a fool? He is more shrewd in his actions than anyone else. Chang'an, Chang'an. Don't scare sir can't bear it. If you have any mistakes, how can Mr. Chi explain them to your parents? You villains, I will definitely sue you and bring you to justice. Chang'an. The old man, who was grieving and crying, was so pitiful that he was so sad that he could hear it and shed tears. When did the students see such a battle? They were all deeply saddened for a moment. Is Jiang Chang'an really dead? How could a person who was quite fierce when he hit someone just now be so fragile? Saying no means it's gone. Impossible, right? Woo-woo, Jiang Chang'an, don't die. We will never bully you again, never mock you again, and never exclude you again. The classmates all wiped away their tears and limped towards Jiang Chang'an. The scene was filled with grief for a moment, and even those who dared not be implicated in the distance curiously approached and explored their heads. Unexpectedly, someone died. That's a student. These thugs are also going to be ruined. Of course, the local ruffians are also afraid. Robbery can happen, even if the amount is large, they can find a way to escape. However, if there is a fatal incident, it will be a big deal, and the county magistrate will definitely not protect them. The local ruffians dragged their painful bodies and limped towards the big man who kicked people. This person was their leader, ruthless, and could not be abandoned even in adversity. The two constables looked at each other and decided to go forward to investigate. If someone really died, their adults may not have a way to explain it. Now is a critical period, and there are still two imperial officials waiting there, who are watching closely. Get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. The two constables pushed away the elementary school students. At this moment, Jiang Chang'an cleverly opened his eyes, but his eyeballs remained motionless. Scared. The two constables took a step back in surprise. This child looks like a ghost without a soul, dumbfounded, like a lifeless puppet, only missing a crooked mouth and drooling, clearly foolish. Chang'an. Master Song's heart skipped a beat, didn't he pretend? Is that right? Is it fake? Don't be really even dumber. So Jiang Lauer will definitely be able to open his private school. Li Shushan breathed a deep sigh of relief. This fool had many cunning eyes and almost fooled him. If it weren't for Jiang Chang'an secretly scratching his palm. Wow. Chang'an has become a fool. It used to be a fool at most, but now it looks like a fool. Get him. He's the murderer. No, it's the perpetrator of the injury. Official, those bad guys blocked the way and robbed us, and even fooled our classmates. Each of us was injured. It's true that not everyone has the skills of Li Shushan and Zhang Zhuzhu that haven't been hit by anyone. Those thugs are all adults, and their strength is countless times greater than that of these children. It is inevitable that they will be injured during the fight. After hearing this, Jiang Chang'an's tears streamed down his face. Finally, someone mentioned that he was hurt. It really hurts. When hitting someone, it feels quite stimulating, but after applying force, the wound is rubbed again, causing the pain of second-degree injury. Hey, she only has a 7-year-old body, can you imagine it? Chang'an, don't cry in Chang'an, sir, let me shout for you, ah. I really can only shout, and now I'm going to the treatment center to accept it, and there's not enough time. Are you the people who are going to be assessed in the rural private school? Since it's okay, hurry over there. It's about to start over there. The constable was startled and became very impatient, without any sympathy at all. Jiang Chang'an's heart tightened. Is that all? No compensation. What is she doing so hard, wasting her expression? No way. Jiang Chang'an was excited and twisted Li Shushan. Li Shushan felt a deep pain and almost didn't throw the person out, but he also knew what Jiang Chang'an meant, so he said coldly and sarcastically, "Oh, that's it. You don't need to compensate for the medicine when you hit someone. Can we go up and seek revenge? That is to say, some people on our side have become foolish. How could we beat those bad guys to pieces and eliminate harm for the people?" The elementary school students were indignant. "Okay." The people in the distance cheered one after another. The ruffians were really despicable. There were so many people being bullied, and it was only right to be beaten to death. What do you think? In front of everyone's eyes, even the two constables saw that Jiang Chang'an had been beaten, so they couldn't hide it. "We're also injured. Our legs are all broken. 4 or 5 thugs couldn't stand up, it was really a wrongful death." "Okay." The people cheered one after another, "It's better to die." But when the local ruffians glared fiercely at them, they instantly stopped talking. Not everyone can afford to offend villains like thugs and thugs. "Let's go, children. The master will take you to seek justice." Song Fuzi held Jiang Chang'an in his arms, and several older children came forward to help maintain him. "Why don't you compensate quickly?" a constable shouted, threatening not too clearly. "It's not good to handle things like this. Go back and see how the adults will deal with them." The thugs shook their bodies and took money one after another, throwing their silver horns one by one towards Jiang Chang'an and his group. Well, anyway, these silver coins were also stolen. They were unlucky today because they didn't get the money and were injured. They have never been so frustrated before. These brats should not offend them again next time, otherwise humph. Seeing the silver, Jiang Chang'an simply closed his eyes and obediently lay in Song Fuzi's arms, otherwise the money symbol in his eyes would have been looked at by others, which would not have been very good. The classmates didn't hesitate either, so they simply picked up the money and handed it over to the largest Shandashan. They deserved it, what were they afraid of? There is a master here. Song Fuzi sighed and said, "Well, since we are willing to compensate, we should also forgive and forgive others. Children, all rivers and seas have great capacity. Let's give people a chance to repent and start anew." "Yes, sir," the students answered solemnly, but their hearts were filled with excitement. It seemed that they also had money. The ox cart set off again and walked unsteadily towards the lotus field. Niu Laohan has always been square. So, are the students in the private school on the mountain so talented? It seems that the next assessment is definitely not a problem. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Layer by Layer Testing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors.